Next, delivering the thesis, The Truth in Nature, Why Stoicism Will Help Us Be Better Christians, please welcome Conrad Alderson.
It's the dawn of morning. I could feel the ocean dew drop to my feet as the ocean waves break. A cold mist filled the ocean air. On this day, the waves were perfect, the water was glassy, and the sun was rising perfectly above the horizon. I had never seen anything quite this beautiful before. My mind was blown by how God created everything to work in perfect harmony. I've always loved nature, which I believe is important. And as Christians, we all know that nature shows the beauty of God. But is glorifying nature really that important, or should we be prioritizing other virtues? Is living in harmony with nature at all related to being virtuous? As Christians, we are called to be virtuous, but it is oftentimes difficult to do so. But I believe there is a solution: Stoicism. Practicing Stoicism will help us gain virtue and live in accordance with God's creation, which will help us be better servants of God. The first philosopher that will benefit our understanding of Stoicism is Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius is one of the five good emperors of Rome and prioritized living a Stoic life. What he contributed to Stoicism was showing us how to live a virtuous life through the good and through the bad. This is essential to understand the idea of living in harmony with nature, as the Stoics believed it was virtue. He writes, Take no notions unsustainable to virtue and reasonable nature into your mind. This is showing us that reason and being a reasonable person is a virtue. This also brings us to the next idea of good emotions and how Stoicism is oftentimes misinterpreted. Stoicism, mainly known as a Roman philosophy, is often stereotyped as demanding a stone-cold personality or someone who feels no emotions. Seneca brings to the table the idea of moderation of emotions. Stoicism is not to push all emotions aside, but to replace them with rational and effective responses to certain situations. The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy states, the ideal agent has good feelings of wishing, which replaces desire, caution, which replaces fear, and joy, which replaces pleasure. These ideas were derived from Seneca. It is important to realize that many of us may consider these ideas as emotions, but early Stoics such as Seneca did not consider these emotions. Seneca tells us how these come to play in reality. He brings the example of someone murdering your father. Any person, even a Stoic, is going to feel emotion. But Seneca says we should not act in revenge, because revenge is an emotional response that is unorderly and untamed. But is feeling angry and upset that your father was killed wrong? In fact, no. Stoics would say it is the right emotion to feel during that situation. Therefore, it is a good emotion. Although Stoicism may be seen as a pagan philosophy, I argue that Stoicism and Christianity have many similarities. Stoicism is a guide that can help us be better followers of God's law and live properly in His world. As Christians, we all look up to the Apostle Paul, who authored much of the New Testament. It is quite likely that Paul used Stoic ideas when trying to reach a Christian audience. Epictetus, a Roman philosopher, uses the analogy of athletic training. He talks about those who never give up and give full effort will win. Now, to show courage, strength, and to prove yourself, you must train to win. Dr. Janelle Peters shows in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 24 through 27, Paul gives a very similar analogy on running a race and how there is one prize, so we must run to win. Both of these analogies are showing us how to be spiritually and mentally disciplined and how to live in harmony with reality. This is showing us that Christianity and Stoicism are aligned and that Stoicism is teaching some right and truthful things. Paul is taking a Stoic idea and bringing it to the Corinthians in order to persuade them to be stronger Christians. If Paul, one of the greatest theologians, is using Stoicism, why shouldn't we? Well, is it possible for Christians to be true Stoics without contradicting the Christian faith? Pastor Wes McAdams states, Christians cannot be Stoics because the truth at which we live our lives is unorderly, because the truth at which we live our lives is not natural. First, we must recognize that we are sinners, and we are flawed. But this does not mean human reason is completely flawed. Humans are the only creatures that God gave the ability to reason. Reason is a good gift from God, and we should use it to contemplate intellectual ideas like Stoicism and other philosophies. Second, I'm not saying that Stoicism overrides Christianity, but that Christians should prioritize living in harmony with God's creation, which Stoicism would strongly agree with. We all struggle with sin and find ourselves in difficult situations. But Stoicism can help us strengthen our faith and help us run the race mentally and physically. We have seen that if we learn to practice Stoicism correctly, it can help us respond to certain situations and live in accordance with God's law. As followers of Christ, we need to keep finding ways to strengthen ourselves and find virtue. And as we have seen, Stoicism, partnered with Christianity, can help us to do so. Thank you.